Well, Vinny, we thought we'd miss the Premier League when it was gone after having to sit through Brighton 1, Aston Villa 2. Bring on the World Cup is what I say.
Yeah, that was a tough match, and that was at times hard to watch. I think Brighton will be disappointed in themselves. I thought that was a real opportunity to finish this part of the season heading into the Christmas break with a big 3 points and moving into those European spots and putting pressure on the teams ahead of them, but ultimately just lacked a little bit of belief on the final third, and they don't score enough goals under Graham Potter, and that's continued now. And to be fair, you must say that Aston Villa, from a structural point of view, were very good and organised and probably ran out worthy winners. Danny Ings being the difference on the day.
Yeah, if there was a difference between the two sides, it was the two. I know they weren't wearing number 9, both of them, but it was Danny Ings and Danny Welbeck, and the impact that Danny Ings had on his team, not just with the goals, but also his ability to win the ball back from deep, to bring the players around him into the game.
Yeah, his whole play was excellent, and I would imagine if Ollie Watkins wasn't sick, he probably wouldn't have started. But it just shows you that's the little bit of luck you need as a manager, and I think Emery's start has been really good. The way he's sort of come up with this sort of new formation. John McGinn was operating off the right, and we seen that the way he won the penalty, and Danny Ings tucked it away brilliantly. So yeah, Danny Welbeck was really poor. Really didn't give Brighton a platform any way, shape or form. But at the same time, you must say that Trossard and March needed a little bit more quality in them wide areas to help out your striker, but ultimately they lacked that little bit of quality in the final third. And Villa took the probably 2-3 chances they had. They took 2 of them and took them well.
3 wins in 4 league games for Aston Villa since Steven Gerrard left. Tactically, what are you seeing then differently that's allowing it? Certainly feels the attacking players to play with a bit more freedom. Is that more a mental thing, that the weight and the pressure that was there under Steven Gerrard is gone, or actually are you seeing something different over the last couple of games from Emery compared to Gerrard?
Yeah, so there's 2 things. One is there was no doubt there was a sort of heavy cloud over the club when Gerrard was there. There was people questioning whether he was the right man or not. We don't know how good Steven Gerrard is as a coach. That will play out in time. But ultimately, the difference is that cloud is gone and there's a little bit more freedom in the club. But also the tactical change from them. I know the personnel changed today because they had that sickness, missing Ollie Watkins and Bailey today. But they play with a 4-4-2 almost, but the 2 wide men join in and make it really compact, and that allows them press teams. So when they haven't got the ball, Emery has them as a 4 narrow midfielders, and the 2 up front who are and that allows fullbacks to get on at different stages. So tactically he's made some small changes, nothing major but small changes, and I think ultimately the team is really working for itself again. As I said, when you lift out dark clouds out of your club, these are good players at Aston Villa, and they've started to get the rewards where they've been some really good results. They've been generally with Gerrard's players, with Gerrard's sort of different bits and pieces, but there's no doubt him leaving the club has given him a huge boost.
What about Brighton then? Since Graham Potter left, it was a slow start for Roberto De Zerbi. 5 games without a win, had back-to-back victories coming into this one. In front inside a minute, we'll feel it was a real missed opportunity to move up to 5th in the Premier League table. What changes have you seen at Brighton compared to the Potter era?
Oh yeah, so tactically it's been huge. By and large, you would say Potter was a 3 at the back man, so that has changed completely. He's gone to he throughout his career in Italy, and at Shakhtar Donetsk he played with a back 4-2-3-1, his preferred style, and we've seen him do that. So again, when you think of March and Trossard, brilliant players, they play really narrow to allow the fullbacks on and get on and sort of get forward. Gross being the right back today, and it just didn't work for them. But there's been small but seismic. What's that word I'm looking for?
Systemic, yes. Or system changes to the system.
There's been some huge changes to the system, but they've been small and different bits and pieces, because it's ultimately with the same personnel, I suppose, is the point. And but there's been a real change to them, that sort of 4-2-3-1 shape. But it looks like Brighton are crying out for a centre forward. They have been under Graham Potter, and they still are under this new coach. And but there's been a lot to be impressed about them, but the big challenge comes when you play like Aston Villa home on a Sunday. Them 3 points are the ones will get you over the line when it comes to a European spot that I think might be up for grabs this year. It's a strange season. and they'll be disappointed. They've got to now spend the next 4 to 6 weeks, with that last result on the brain. So, but I'm probably somewhere on the fence with this new coach. I think he's had some really good results, but a couple of them have been disappointing, and today was really poor in their performance.
Crying out for a centre forward. They had one sitting on the bench, 18-year-old Evan Ferguson, who's going to be flying back to Dublin, I presume, tonight or tomorrow morning to link up with the Irish senior squad for the first time ahead of the games against Norway and Malta. So he may well make his debut in one of those games. You know him probably since he was a very young kid. What is it about him that Stephen Kenny has seen to bring him in when he's had little or no first team game time that he feels he's ready for an international senior setup?
Yeah, I think it's important that we help these players progress. I think he's progressed through the ranks. It's funny, he never got, say, the plaudits under 14 international 15 because he was always moving up grades above his age level. There was a huge sort of furore around the time he played for Bohs and made his debut. Lots of rubbish talk, I would say, about different bits and pieces around that, but he's remained level-headed, and his family are really level-headed people, and what he's done is he's progressed, as I said, into this Brighton setup. He's in around the first team, trains with them every day, and to be fair, they've taken real care of Evan, and he's just signed a new, over the last couple of weeks, long-term contract at the club, which puts a lot of things in perspective for him in terms of his future. Is not secured, but it's well on the way to do that. So that's brilliant. What do we get as a player? We get someone who, I was in Gillingham a couple of weeks ago, and if you see that goal on YouTube, it's a headed goal from about 20 yards, and it's a brilliant header. Actually, you sort of knew it was almost going to happen just in the build-up play. I encourage people to have a look at that goal against Gillingham in the League Cup game. But also, it'd be wrong just to say, he gives us that aerial ability. He's a big, strong lad, but it'd be wrong to say that's his strength. His strength is on the deck. He links up the play really well, again, but he's got areas of improvement. But he's a goal scorer. He's scored some wonderful goals. Scored an amazing goal last year against Everton that everyone can see, under 23 game from 35 yards. So he gets all sorts of goals. He's a big goal threat all the way through his career. He's a big, strong lad. He can lead the line. And the future's really bright for him. But like all of these young players, the last step is always the most difficult. So he'll remain level-headed. And I think it's a really positive sign that we need to help these players in their progression. And I think bringing them into the setup, he'll impress a lot of the senior pros. He's loved at Brighton by the senior pros there because of his attitude and his work rate, and I really hope it goes well for him.
Friendlies are a rarity now in international football since the introduction of the Nations League, but Stephen Kenny has a couple of them coming up. What do you think he's going to try and get from these two games? Is there a pressure for these two games? I remember before the last international window saying at the start of the week that he'll come under pressure probably, and everyone felt, no, he has the new contract. Is there a pressure because of how the Armenia game finished for Ireland to get results in these two matches? Yeah,
so again, if I was putting myself into the international shoes, I would look at the Norway game and say he's got to go full strength. He's got to use his three at the back. And we're very good in them scenarios. I think he's got to use that as an opportunity to learn or improve his system. For me, the Malta game is something where I'd love him to try something different. I think those lesser nations we've struggled against. Could he look at a back four with a 4-2-3-1 and being expansive? I don't think he will. Reason being, one, I think he loves the three at the back system, and two is I think we haven't allowed this manager the freedom to express himself, in the sense of, if the result against Malta wasn't perfect and he tried a different system, I think we'd have so much noise around the international job that isn't helpful. So for that reason, I don't expect him to make any real changes to the system. I just hope it's a good camp. We're missing a couple of bodies. Obviously, Derby have held on to their players and different bits and pieces. But look, I think it's an exciting game. Hopefully Haaland comes. Hopefully Norway are full strength. I think it suits us to play those better nations. But again, I'd like to see us put someone away for a few goals and Malta be there for the taking. And hopefully it's not another referendum on the international manager. I don't think we need that now. I think we need to just rock up to the Euros next year and be ready for it.